What's happening?
Hey, another week here.
Here we are. Here we are.
Another shirt.
Yeah. Well, for sure, another episode of Talking Winter with Swinter, right? And that is with us from Swinter Group's world headquarters here in, God, that sounds so good.
St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis, Missouri. And we have Jason Duggan, Adam Hunter, Ken Bogeman. Brent is not able to be here today.
It's on a sensitive diplomatic mission.
That's right. To Alderaan.
Yep.
What?
Or whatever he's doing.
Dude, it's a Star Wars reference. Seriously? Nothing? Whatever. It doesn't matter.
I got it.
Okay, good. Somebody did. All right, right on. So anyway, here we are. And what we're going to do is we're working down the list of Brian from New Hampshire, who has sent us some stuff to talk about. We're
top fan.
He is
from New Hampshire.
Top fan. That's right. He's a good dude. He's good people. Yeah, we're working out some stuff he wanted to talk about, and something that he wanted to bring up was what new folks that are new to the business can expect, right? And so we're going to get into some stuff for new guys, right? So yeah, that's what we're going to, because we were all new.
Sounds good.
We were all new guys at one point.
From last week.
I wasn't going to mention that there was a prior episode.
Oh,
because the prior episode was all about what to be afraid of.
That's true.
Right. It's
true,
like anybody that listens to that episode is going to be like, I am not doing this.
Never getting in the snow.
Right. So if you're an employer and you want to have, some of your guys listen to, what to expect in the snow business, I would start with this one and then go to the one before this, because the last one was all of the reasons not to do this, what's hard about it. And so now we're going to talk about more what to do and kind of what's, what's good about it, right? Like how to succeed. So let's say you get through all of the hardships that is working in the snow business. How do you excel? How do you become a better member of the team? How do you become a better employee? How do you bring more value to the business? That's what we're going to talk about here, right?
Yep.
And so, the first thing I want to focus on is how to bring value, right? And the very first thing, which is
you got to show up.
Yeah.
Well,
relatively elementary.
Isn't that 1A on everything? You got to be there.
Some things are just so simple.
It is, but at the end of the day, if you can just show up and not bring a bunch of drama with you,
right?
Oh my God. So good.
Oh, I would love the lack of drama.
Just show up, man. Get here, do the job, be ready to go. Don't bring with you extra baggage.
Yeah.
There's enough baggage with snow, as we covered in the last episode or the next one, depending on which, what order you get that in. This is a tough business. This is a really, really hard business to be in. And if you show up and bring a bunch of drama with you, my God, it only gets harder.
Yep.
So just get here, man. And you know what the next thing is, which I know this is really kind of hard to get your head around, but do a good job. Yeah. Like, care about what you're doing. Take pride in your work.
Can I go back to the income outcome thing again?
Yeah, bring it. I really like that. Bring it.
Yeah. So if you're here for the income, you're probably not going to be somebody we want to have stick around, right? If you're here for an income. If you are here for the outcome, in other words, if you are here for the end result and you care about the job that you do, in other words, the outcome, you are, let me rephrase all of that.
That'd be great.
You are, if you're here for the income, you are less likely.
I'm going to say if you're here only
for
the income.
Yeah, only for
I
the
think
only is important.
I think that's,
ultimately, we're all here for an income.
Right.
Ultimately. But the point is that if you're here merely for the income,
I think a good point,
you are far less likely to be asked back again for another season or to survive this one. But if you are here for the outcome, which means that you're here to do a good job, you want to make things right, you are more likely then to succeed in this business and survive to do it another season and continue to do that season after season.
Yeah, that's fair.
Go ahead, Adam.
I agree. Well, let me retrace my train of thought here. I think I lost it, but it'll come back to me. Yeah. All right.
Anytime now, bro.
Sometime. It's gone.
Nice. Well, but to jump onto that though, I mean, if you're anything you do, if you only do it for the money, your heart is not in it, and you're not going to take the pride that you want to take in that job. And when it comes right down to it, whether that's your job or your marriage or any other relationship that you have, I mean, you have to be in it for something more than just you.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, so I think that's something that becomes evident. And so I think a part of that is you have to know what good is in the eyes of those around you, right? So ask your supervisor, ask your employer, ask your boss, how do they define a good job, right? Do they define a good job by as little cost and as most profit as possible? Or do they define a good job as the most complete and thought through, thorough production of snow removal services? Or do they define a good job as barely enough material? I mean, like, you have to understand what good is, and you have to make sure that your values align with your employer.
Well, and that's something that, we could at some point do almost an entire episode on expectations and standards and what good is based on a standard.
Yeah. Well, but for today, you are absolutely correct. Yeah, in terms of what Brian was looking for in something that his guys can listen to get better at their job.
Yep.
is understand what if you work for Brian, ask him, what does he expect of you? How does he define success?
Yes.
Have that conversation.
And do you know why?
Because those guys that are just starting out, this is what I was going to say. They may not know what passion they have for it because they only know what they know. They don't know it.
Right.
They may initially decide, hey, I hear snow is great. I'm here for the money. But without realizing everything that goes into it and getting the proper training,
right,
then they're more advised on, oh, I see how important this is.
Well, yeah. The point I was just about to make when he said, ask Brian. Yes, ask him. Because ultimately it is Brian's snow removal or whatever the name of the
company or whatever the company is. Yeah.
It is Brian's,
Northern New Hampshire.
It is Brian's name. It is Brian's company who is on the line. It is not Joe Schmo driving the plow truck who ultimately will pay the price or reap the benefit in recognition in order to get more contracts, sustain the business. That's why you have to ask him what his expectations are, because it's his business.
Yes, and to tie on to that, something that I know this episode is more geared for employees and staff, but owners that are listening, managers that are listening, be sure to convey that very same information to your staff. Be sure to let them know this is how I'm going to define your success. Because a lot of times guys are intimidated. They're scared. They don't want to have that conversation. They don't want to stick their neck out there. So don't be afraid to jump in and give them that information right out of the gates. Because when they know what good is, they're going to be much more likely to meet that expectation. And, and the other thing, anything else on, showing up and doing a good job?
No.
Before we move on to the next one?
No,
okay.
We can move on.
Okay. So the other thing that you want to do, as an employee is make sure that you take care of the equipment. We talked a little bit in the last one about, or two ago or whatever, however many ago it was, communicating any issues.
Right.
But, when you show back up with a truck or side by side or skid steer or whatever it is, if the next person that gets in that piece of equipment has got 6 bags from McDonald's and a half a dozen, empty, the ashtray is full of cigarette butts and the truck stinks and there's trash everywhere, that's just a dick move, man.
Yeah.
Clean up after yourself. Take care of the equipment. And I'm not even talking about, obviously you want to not beat up the equipment. Don't drive into curbs and wreck the thing. I'm talking about the very basic, treat this equipment like it's your own. And if you leave a bunch of trash in your own car, man,
then don't treat it like it's your own.
Then
treat it better.
Right. This is the kind of thing where, somebody has invested a substantial amount of money in that piece of equipment. You're in that equipment feeding your family, paying your mortgage, paying your rent, putting gas in your vehicle. You are making money on this piece of equipment that somebody has spent a lot of money on. Even if it's an old used piece of equipment, they're still expensive. And so when at the end of the storm, the owner or the production manager, the operations manager, whoever it is, comes out and is looking at the equipment, and you've got, let's say there's 5 pieces of equipment sitting there. 4 of them are clean. They're in good shape. They're relatively cleaned out. The fuel tank is topped off. And then you show up at that one, and there's always that one. Mm-hmm. And there's a bunch of trash on the floor. The window was down, and so there's a bunch of brine that is dried up. There's salt crystallized inside the cab. You tossed your gloves up on the dashboard when they're soaking wet. It's just, you can tell the people that are taking care of the equipment, the people that aren't.
Right.
Absolutely take care of the equipment. Just keep it clean, wipe it down, throw your trash away. Take that extra 35 seconds to just grab your stuff out of there and clean it up. If it's a diesel or if it's got a block warmer on it, plug the damn thing in. It's just not that hard.
It's not that hard. And the same guy who's going to leave the vehicle trashed, he's going to shut it off and walk away with the plow off the ground. You want to talk? Number one pet peeve of mine. I know.
Park the truck with the plow in the air, and I lose my mind.
I know.
Yeah.
And I've seen you even correct people who's not our equipment. They don't work for us, and you're like, so hey, you just going to keep that plow up?
Oh yeah, like somebody comes by here and parks out front with the plow in the air, and I walk by and I'm like, man, what I know. Why don't you just take a cutting torch to your suspension? I mean, seriously, it's fine. Yeah, night.
But there's the same guys who maybe won't spin all the salt out of their spreader at the end of their shift back into a pile. I'm not saying they're going to leave it a full V box in there, but they're also not going to run every bit of it out.
Climb up.
What I mean? It's the same guys.
Yeah, climb up on the bedside, toss the chunks off the top. Right. I mean, it's take it, clean things up, take care of stuff. That's a big deal. And just as important as that is saying something if you think there's a problem. So, hey, that spreader was making a weird sound, or hey, when I go to lift the plow up, the motor was whining a little bit, or it was really fast when I was angling left and right at the beginning of the storm, and it was slowing down towards the end. I mean, these are all things that you can say to somebody that even if you don't know why that's a problem, anything that's different, bring that to somebody's attention. Right. Because when you notice something that started one way and it ended another, 2 things can happen. One, the production manager, your supervisor, owner, whatever, has an opportunity to fix that because they know it's a problem. So it won't break down later. And the other thing is you have an opportunity to learn about what that issue is.
Right.
Hey, I noticed this was a little weird. What does that actually mean?
Right. And I will tell you that to somebody's ears, somebody that's been around the business for any period of time, to somebody's ears, you're going to describe a symptom and tell them that there's something different. You describe a symptom and they're going to go, oh, I know what that is.
Gotcha.
Let's fix that.
Yeah.
And that's going to give you, just like Ken just said, that's going to give you the opportunity to learn the next time you experience something like that. And we can go back a number of episodes we talked about having equipment in the truck. Maybe you can make that fix right away, and you can continue to work through the night and not have that problem again, as opposed to, having to bring the truck back to the shop and have somebody more experienced tell you what the issue is.
Well, and to your point, kind of just a second ago, is this comes back to you as well, is that if that truck is functional or skid steer or side by side or whatever it is, if that piece of equipment is able to do the job, you get the hours when you go to warn it, right? If that thing, you show up for the next storm and it's broke, you're going home. So it behooves you as well as the company to make sure that you mention that to somebody, which when you're mentioning that to somebody, you're communicating. Yeah. And that is, we talked about that.
Communication
again,
is key.
Man. Communicate. Make absolutely sure you are spending as much time as you can talking with other people about your stuff and that equipment.
When I read articles, when I watch videos.
Whoa. You read?
Oh, yeah. From time to time, I do.
Really?
Yeah, not all the time, but sometimes.
Nice.
It's very informative.
It's unusual coming out of Jefferson County, but
Whatever. Everything always goes back to communication. It really does. Like, if you dive in and you see, I'll give you an example. When you read articles, whether you're checking out SIMA or any landscape article or just people's testimonials, there's always something in there about communication, whether there was a breakdown, how they fixed it, how they were able to move past it, but it always comes back to communication. So if you can lock that down, you're just progressing your business a step ahead each time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, communication is where it's all at. And in this, particularly in this business, it is all about that.
And communication at the moment, not communication later.
Well, and
we've hit on this
real time.
Yeah, we've hit on this in earlier episodes too. Is that this business is not a hey, I'll see you Thursday of next week to get that taken care of. This business is a right now kind of business.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. 100%.
I'm not coming back till next Friday when we do another podcast.
Yeah. So
I thought it was Monday.
Oh.
Yeah, that's fine.
So the point I'm making is that the communication is important, but it's also important that it's done timely, right now.
And that the communication is done within the predetermined methodology of the company. So there may be, some companies have got, they've digitized their equipment maintenance, right? So there's some type of app that you need to use for reporting equipment failures. Other times there's particular paperwork that you have to use. Other times there's a Post-it note you got to write down and put on somebody's desk. Whatever the methodology is that the company has for communicating information, be sure to follow that. And a big part of that is you may not understand or know why you have to do that particular methodology, but there's a reason. Somebody along the way decided, hey, I need this information to come to me in this format. Mm-hmm. So be sure to use that format so that you have that. And whoever wants it that way has it that way on purpose.
Right. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So, I think that those are all things that as a staff member or an employee, if you're following those things and you're following those ideas, you're going to be in a position where your supervisor is going to trust you. The ownership and management is going to appreciate the work that you're doing. You're going to be in a position where you're less likely to be on the
that guy.
Yeah. Nobody wants to be that guy. And let me tell you, that guy winds up gone.
Yeah.
We used to have all kinds of trouble with guys leaving trash in the trucks and you could, we say no smoking in the equipment or vehicles, and you climb into a skid steer and what was happening, right?
Oh, yeah.
So like those guys.
That's not an odor that just goes away.
No. Well, and the thing is like if you're a non-smoker and you climb into a truck that somebody's been, window up smoking in, that's
my favorite. My favorite.
That's not great,
No, it's bad.
Yeah, and so, so figure that out, be a good team player, communicate.
Hey, while we're on the topic of communication, if you want to communicate with us, we have a special line for a text that you can reach us at. It's 314-260-4352. Now, I'm going to tell you this. It's a special line because you're not going to text some random number. It's going to make it around the office 15 times, and we might bring it up in a podcast 2 years from now. If you text this, give us some information, give us some background about who you are, what your business is, and we want to be able to give you a shout-out if you've got questions, concerns.
This is a direct line to our podcast.
Bam, that's it.
Nowhere else.
Well, it goes to my inbox.
Which is a direct line to our podcast.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Reach out.
Yeah, no,
we
definitely
want to hear from
you.
Or hit us up at podcast@swinnergroup.com on the emails.
Yep.
We'll take it there, too.
Yep. Yeah, we definitely want to hear from you. Yep. This is a good break. Yeah, right on.
No. You mentioned communicating per whatever standards or, appropriate channels exist in your company, but that that appropriate channels and appropriate standards and appropriate systems that you have goes beyond just straight person-to-person communication. That goes on to everything that we do as far as the way in which we plow, the order of which we hit lots. So there's a lot to say about the standardization of systems within a company that, and I think that's something that maybe you want to hit on a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I mean, I think we've done a pretty good job of covering that because each company is going to have their own different way of doing it. So I think we can leave that to them. And but I do think that we want to get into, we're going to do. Let's cover basic plowing operations. So what guys can expect pushing snow.
Yeah.
And I think we'll do another one on another episode for new guys on de-icing, and then another one on problems to look for. But let's cover plowing here, and then we'll call it a day on this one. But
okay.
But on for plowing operations, so I think that there's a few things that as a new guy, it's you're gonna get some basic training on pushing snow. So how to work the equipment, how to windrow snow, how to move things around. But some things that do require some brain work are where to push snow and where not to push snow.
For sure.
Okay.
Light poles and fire hydrants.
You put all the snow.
Absolutely. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Good Lord.
That is the worst.
So with that, when you're pushing snow, you want to push snow to the easiest way to think about that is you do not want to put snow anywhere that it might potentially cause a problem down the road, right? So that means you do not want to put snow by doors. You do not want to put snow by loading docks. You do not want to put snow into handicap areas. You do not want to put snow into cart corrals. You do not want to put snow around light poles. So
fire hydrants,
and
to the
did you like that?
To the best extent possible, you don't want to put snow on the uphill side of a lot.
Right. You need to put snow if you can. Hopefully, where the storm drains are. So look for the lowest point of a parking lot. And then there's probably going to be a storm drain there. You want to put snow just barely uphill of that storm drain if you can. So when it melts, it runs right to the drain.
Yeah. Not on top of the drain.
Right. Not on top of the drain. You want to go next to it. And sometimes you can't do that. Get it. That's fine. But you want to always put snow as far away from the building as you can.
Right.
Because again, the idea here is when that snow melts, that the water is going to run across the parking lot. It's going to freeze in the overnight when it gets cold, and it's going to turn to ice. And what's happened is when you put that snow there, it melts, runs, and refreezes. You have then created that hazardous condition. And so the company you work for is liable for that hazardous condition that has then been created. So you have to understand that when you push and pile the snow, where you put it has a huge impact on the liability and the risk that your company is taking.
Yes.
So move it as far away from the building as you can. Move it as far away from where pedestrian traffic is likely to be as you possibly can. If you can get it close to a drain, not on top of it, close to a drain, do that.
Yeah.
Those are things that you do want to do. That makes sense?
Yeah,
Yes.
and there are going to be tricky areas that you plow. There are going to be areas that to get the furthest away from the building, you go uphill, and the drains are downhill closer to the building, right? Those are going to be tricky things that you have to try to work through. But what I would encourage anybody who's new to this, anybody that doesn't really have a really firm understanding of where to put the snow, ask your supervisor.
100%.
Ask your supervisor, hey, can you come here and show me where I should pile the snow? Or can you at least, at minimum, draw it on the map for me so I can see where I should be pushing this snow to?
If you guys aren't using maps, you're losing out. You need to have maps. There may be a guy listening to this podcast, and he's Joe Schmo, just starting out. He's got 1-2 trucks, and he's thinking, I've got my first accounts. I'm going to make some snow money. Great. You got to have a plan. There's so much that goes into it, and that's why our SG Advantage is just amazing because it does everything you need if you want to grow your business. And we can get into that in another episode.
Well, I was actually just going to bring that up. If you're a supervisor or an owner and you've got some questions on, well, wait a minute, you just said something about liability from refreeze. What does that actually mean?
Well, it's a big deal.
That's exactly where we come in. We want to help you understand your risks and understand that liability. If you've got questions on that, absolutely let us know. I mean, that's something where we can talk to you. We're probably, if it might not be next week, but we're probably going to be in your town talking to somebody about our systems and software. Let us know. We will come to your office at no charge to you, chit chat with you about that and how we can help 100%. So
yeah. And on that note, we've thrown the number and the email out there before, but it doesn't hurt to do it again. 314-260-4352 or podcast@swintergroup.com. If something like that sounds like something you might be interested in, give us a shout out to any of those and we'll make time to come see you.
Yep. And if you're one of the guys that's in the truck listening and you're like, you know what, I don't give a crap about any of that. Just keep telling me what to do and what not to do.
All right.
That's awesome.
Well, moving right along.
Yeah.
Then.
Yeah. So let's throw some tips and tricks out there. So, when you first show up at a property, what you want to do is you want to start with, it kind of depends on the time of day, right? So when you get there, if it's during the day, you want to make sure that the areas most heavily traversed by either vehicular or pedestrian traffic, that those are getting treated, right? So if you've got, there's a half acre up close to the building that everybody's parking, do the best you can to clear that before the acre out in the middle of nowhere that nobody's ever going to use.
Right.
Absolutely. Something I wanted to add and kind of jump in before that is, Ken, let's say this is your first time on the property. Maybe you've been there numerous times. It doesn't matter. Once you've been on the property 2 or 3 times, you're going to have a plan. But if you've never been there, and I've done this personally when I was plowing snow with my own company, whatever, stop, look around, take the time to take 5 minutes and create a plan. Hey,
yes, 100%.
I'm gonna push the snow here because situations are so much different during the day when storefronts are open or whatever business you're doing, whatever parking lot, compared to 2 a.m. in the morning.
And I can tell you that the last thing you want is to have a big pile of snow and you didn't think about where you needed to put it. And now you've got a big pile of snow that now you have to move.
And
inevitably, after you spend 5 or 6 minutes figuring out exactly what you're going to do, people can pull in and park right where you were going to start.
Yeah.
I think that happens every time.
Every time. But that's a great point, Adam, is figure out.
Then that's where you push the snow.
Just bury the car. It's fine.
Right behind them.
If you check out Snowplow,
that's a joke. Don't do
Mafia. I'm pretty sure I saw a video of a car being pushed on a pile.
Onto the pile. Yeah, I've seen that. That's awesome. Well, it's not awesome. Don't ever do that if you work for Swinter Group. But anyway, but no,
don't ever do that.
It was a funny moment.
Period.
Yeah. So, but no, that's a great point. Is when you first get there, drive around the property, get your head around the situation before you get started. You get started pushing snow, and then you realize, crap, I got to redo what I just did.
Yep.
You totally make a plan first.
Yep.
If you've got maps showing you where piling points are, fantastic. But understand that on that map where the piling points are probably, it's like pirate code. Mm-hmm. There's suggestions more than actual rules.
Yep.
So it's sometimes there's no exceptions. You have to put snow in those very spots. Other times it's we like snow to be here if it possibly can be. But definitely keep an eye on that so you know what's going on.
Yeah.
And get an eyeball on the property, because if you get there and there's 5 piling points that are designated on a map, and in each of those 5 areas there's a car parked there, communicate. Call somebody and say, hey, there's cars in the piling points. What do you want me to do? Right. Because it very well may be a scenario where it's like, okay, well, we're going to have to relocate the snow, because if you have a designated piling point on a contract, you don't put snow there, somebody slips and falls.
Right.
The very first question the attorney is going to ask is, well, why didn't you come back and move that pile to where it was supposed to be?
Well, and one of the things that I learned early on was, let's say your piling point happens to be a parking spot at the back of the parking lot, right? And when you start, there aren't any cars there. Make your first push, take up those 3 or 4 spots, and then you can make your bigger pile towards the spot that you're supposed to take. Anything that you can do to keep somebody from pulling into your piling point is your allocated piling point is a good thing.
That's a great point. Yeah, if you think you're going to need 3 parking spaces for the snow, absolutely put a little pile in 5 spaces, and then you could always tuck it in later. But that's a really, really, really good point. Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that hopefully those are some good points on, some basic plowing operations, you know.
And we'll be back for more for new guys.
Yeah. But for right now, we're going to do?
We're going to say bye.
We're going to call it an episode. We're going to come back. We're going to talk more about basic de-icing strategies as well as, some problems to look for. But for right now,
I love it.
We're going to thank you guys for hanging out. We really, really do appreciate you listening, and we hope that you continue to listen. And, maybe even tell your friends. So, yeah.
Hey, if you guys see us out on Facebook, whether we make a comment, post an article, whatever, go ahead and like it. Engage with us. That's what we want to hear from you.
Yep, definitely want to hear from you. Love that. Let us know. Hoping to hear from you. In the meantime, have a good one. Stay safe out there. We'll see y'all later. Thanks. See ya.
Bye.